Malcolm.
He has a look at the inside. Oh, they go down again. The two guys who clashed last week.
This RotoMoto React is brought to you by O'Neal. Daytona is always a memorable race, and 2022 did not disappoint. From Eli breaking the GOAT's win record and a lapped rider being involved in the finish of another Cooper Webb race, to RJ Hampshire crashing multiple times in the main and Brandon Scher coming off the couch to qualify straight from the heat in the Premier class. But the real story of the night, as always, is contact between two high-profile riders that already have bad blood between them. There were even some penalties levied Saturday night, but not for what you might think. On the opening lap of the 450 main, Cooper Webb nabs his second whole shot of the season with the top three in points in tow. With Anderson on the inside and Eli on the out, Malcolm splits the two with a super fast rhythm to set him up to be second in the bull turn, but Anderson rubs up on the inside, pushes Malcolm off balance, and ends up second anyway, chasing Webb down the second section. But Malcolm finds an amazing drive through the section, closing the gap on Anderson leading into the sand. He takes the inside line, blows the berm, and slams directly into Jason Anderson, taking both of them down and all the way to the back of the pack. This was clearly a controversial moment of the race, and it had Twitter buzzing, but we barely had a chance to analyze because just 1 minute later, Mookie quickly runs Anderson down again, making a subtle amount of contact before sprinting ahead. A bit of a letdown, to be honest, as we saw the moment develop down the front straight and were anticipating an even more aggressive move. It is possible that if Kyle Chisholm wasn't directly in front of Malcolm's line, that Jason and his monster Kawasaki could very well have ended up in pit row. But again, without even having time to compose a thought about that move, the riders' lines come together again, with Malcolm taking the inside line through the sand and running it all the way outside, pushing Anderson completely off the track. And we thought this was the end of it, but these two riders tangle again later in the race. 11 minutes left on the clock. Malcolm is passing his teammate Dean Wilson when he leans a little far into the tough blocks, getting stuck and holding up Wilson. Anderson comes up, and as he tries to navigate the situation, he runs straight into the back of Dean Wilson. This was obviously not an egregious move, was just a racing incident, but it is worth noting that Malcolm did not lose any positions here, just time, where Anderson and Dean were both passed twice, making Jason's ascent to the top that much more difficult. Malcolm crossed the line 7th with Anderson 2 seconds back in 8th, a costly night for the monster Kawasaki rider, as he fell from 6 points back in the championship to 17 and the only rider within a race of Eli Tomac. And then it got even worse. 2.5 hours after the checkers flew, the AMA updated the official results, showing Malcolm instead in 8th and Anderson in 9th, back 1 spot from the results at the line. This seemed to confuse a few people, asking why Anderson was penalized when Malcolm was the aggressor in the T-bone in the sand, and again running Anderson off the track a lap later. Anderson's move in the bull turn wasn't particularly egregious, and no riders even hit the deck. But it is worth noting that Jason is on probation from his round 4 incident with Ken Roczen, and was not punished in his incident with Malcolm last weekend. Although it's not mentioned on the official result page, the answer lies on the provisional result page, as it was updated with an explanation. An addition was added to the session notes. Number 21 and number 27 penalized 1 position each for an off-track advantage. So what does this even mean? It was very hard to see because of the running order on the screen, but that first turn contact was actually Anderson making contact with Eli, who then in turn made contact with Malcolm and actually pushed him off of the track. The reason that Malcolm looked like he was shot out of a cannon during that second rhythm is because Malcolm actually sped down the side of the track, accelerating while skipping multiple obstacles. This was an easy open and shut case for the AMA, as this has been one of the only consistent rulings we have seen them make this year. Anderson's infraction, however, came on the second lap. When Malcolm pushes him off the track, he very clearly accelerates along the tough blocks before rejoining at the next safest location without losing any time to Malcolm. I don't think anyone can reasonably defend Stewart's penalty. He had an easy opportunity to rejoin the track at any point before he did, instead opting to throttle down and leap back onto the track down the section. He clearly did not want to lose sight of Anderson, and it's understandable if his primary goal at that moment was revenge, even if that meant a small penalty. Anderson's is a little more gray area. I mean, don't get me wrong, he did break the rules as they are written, but I could see a case being made by his team that the only reason he was off the track at all was because of an overly aggressive and borderline targeting rider pushing him off. This was the third time in just over a lap that Malcolm did his best to run Anderson off his line, and I think we can all agree if it was someone like Vince Friese making that sort of move instead of a fan favorite like Malcolm, the entire fan base would be sharpening their pitchforks right now. The real winner in all of this, of course, is Ken Roczen. The 2-spot penalty moved him from 9th to 7th, which is surprisingly his 3rd best finish of the year, a welcome reward to the fantasy players that had him on their team. Did you have a problem with Anderson's opening lap move? Do you think Malcolm should have faced a stiffer penalty after his repeated aggressiveness on El Hombre? Or do you think Kyle Chisholm saved Jason Anderson from making an unscheduled trip to pit lane? Let me know in the comments below. And while you are down there, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel for more race news and analysis like this. If you value the content that I put out, feel free to check out the Patreon in the description. Just $1 per week helps feed a starving motocross fan and enters you into a drawing to win race, worn, and autographed memorabilia from your favorite riders. 2 lucky March patrons will win autographed jerseys from Team Solitaire's Robbie Wageman for the month of March. Thanks as always for watching RotoMoto. My name is Donnie. Keep it pinned to the weekend.